Faith is not a feeling, it is a function of spiritual alignment with divine truth. It doesn't shift with emotion, it stands firm on revelation. Feelings fluctuate. They change with the weather, with moods, with opinions, and with circumstances. But faith, when truly understood, is rooted in the unshakable reality of who God is, not in the unpredictable experiences of life. And until your faith is anchored in the eternal, you will be vulnerable to everything temporary. Too many people try to walk in faith while leaning on their feelings. But real faith doesn't ask for your emotions' permission before it acts. It doesn't wait for the right mood to obey. It doesn't need perfect conditions to move forward. Faith is the divine conviction that even when your senses are silent, the Spirit of God is still speaking. It is the spiritual compass that keeps you walking forward even when your eyes can't see the road and your heart can't feel the joy. Faith is a spiritual law. It is a legal mechanism in the kingdom of God. It activates the promises written in the Constitution of heaven and makes them manifest in your life when you come into agreement with what God has already declared. That means your job is not to invent a promise, but to discover what's already been spoken and align with it through thought, word, and action. When you truly understand that faith is a function of spiritual alignment, you begin to live with intentionality. You begin to watch what you speak. You begin to monitor who you let speak into your life. Because alignment affects manifestation. You can't speak death and expect life. You can't walk in doubt and expect destiny. You can't entertain fear and expect fulfillment. Faith requires a holy agreement with truth, even when facts try to pull you in another direction. Let me tell you this. Truth is not a concept, it's a person. And his name is not theory. His name is not logic. His name is not culture. His name is truth. And when your spirit aligns with the truth, that's when faith becomes functional. That's when mountains move, not because you screamed at them, but because you were aligned with the authority that created the mountain in the first place. You've got to understand that feelings will always try to negotiate with faith. Your feelings will say, wait until it looks better. Your feelings will say, don't trust until you can see proof. But faith says, trust now, move now, build now, obey now. Not because everything is clear, but because everything is covered. Faith doesn't guarantee ease. It guarantees alignment. And alignment always brings provision in the kingdom. Look at the lives of those who changed history. They weren't perfect. They weren't emotionless. They weren't exempt from struggle. But what separated them was their alignment. Noah didn't build the ark because it felt right. He built it because it was aligned with divine instruction. Abraham didn't leave his father's house because it made emotional sense. He left because he trusted the direction of the unseen voice. Mary didn't carry the Messiah because she felt qualified. She carried him because she was aligned with divine favor. There is something powerful that happens when you realize that faith is an agreement, not an emotion. It is a legal transaction between heaven and earth. It is your yes to God's yes. It is your move in response to His word. And when you align your life with that word, even when it hurts, even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you comfort, that's when faith becomes a force that cannot be stopped. Let me speak to the one who has been weary because they haven't felt faith lately. That's okay. Faith is not a mood. It's not adrenaline. It's not spiritual hype. You don't have to feel strong to be full of faith. You just have to stay in alignment, keep showing up, keep obeying, keep surrendering. That's faith. Faith is the consistency of obedience in the absence of clarity. It is the refusal to be moved by what you see because you are anchored in what He said. And let me tell you, alignment will cost you. It will cost you popularity. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you the approval of people who prefer your old version. But it will also produce a life of fulfillment, peace, and supernatural results. Because when you are aligned with divine truth, all of heaven backs you up. You are not walking alone. You are walking with power that is unseen but undeniable. That's why faith doesn't start in your feelings, it starts in your spirit. And when your spirit is full of truth, your life begins to produce evidence. You'll begin to speak differently, walk differently, expect differently. You'll stop reacting to storms because you've learned how to sleep in the boat like Jesus did, resting, not in the absence of waves, but in the presence of peace. The moment your life gets into alignment with the principles of heaven, you'll see acceleration. You'll see doors open that were sealed for years. You'll see people show up to help you who don't even know why they're helping you. You'll see provision come from unexpected places, not because of luck, not because of manipulation, but because of divine alignment. Favor follows those who walk by faith, not because they're perfect, but because they're positioned. Don't let feelings trick you out of faith. Don't let temporary emotions talk you out of eternal promises. There will be days when fear screams louder than your calling. There will be nights when doubt dances in your head. But faith says, I don't live by sight. I don't live by emotion. I live by the Word of God. That's why the enemy attacks your alignment. He knows he can't cancel God's promise, so he tries to disrupt your position. But when you stay in alignment, there is no demon, no delay, no deception that can block what God has ordained. There is a version of you that can only emerge when you walk by faith. You cannot birth your next level in the comfort of the familiar. You've got to walk by the blueprint even if it doesn't make sense. Build what God told you even when they laugh. Prepare for rain even when the sky is blue. Sow in famine, speak to dry bones, worship in the fire. That's alignment. And that's when faith is activated. You were never meant to be led by your senses. You were meant to be led by the Spirit. That's why faith often looks foolish, because it's not designed to impress men. It's designed to please God. And without faith, it is impossible to please Him. Not because He needs you to perform, but because He wants you to trust Him. Trust is the highest form of worship. It says, God, I don't understand, but I surrender. I can't see the way, but I know you are the way. Faith will pull you out of survival into significance. It will call you out of scarcity into abundance. It will pull you out of fear and into destiny. But you must make a decision. Will I let my emotions define me, or will I let divine truth align me? The choice is yours. And every decision you make in alignment with God's truth unlocks a new dimension of who you were created to be. You have the gift of faith not to make life easier, but to make purpose possible. Use it, feed it, fight for it, and most of all, stay in alignment with the voice that called you before you had a name, before you had a platform, before you had any evidence. Because when you stay aligned with divine truth, faith will carry you through every storm, over every mountain, and into every promise. Not by power, not by might, but by His Spirit. That is the function of faith, and that is your divine assignment. Faith is not blind. It sees what eyes cannot see. It is not the absence of sight. It is the presence of insight. It does not deny reality. It transcends it. Faith looks beyond what is visible and anchors itself in what is eternal. It sees the invisible, believes the impossible, and moves toward the intangible with confidence, not because of proof, but because of promise. Many have misunderstood faith, thinking it's just wishful thinking or spiritual optimism. But true faith is a lens that allows you to see the world from heaven's perspective. It gives you eyes to see what the natural world hides. It gives you discernment to perceive purpose and pain, growth and grief, and opportunity and obstacles. Faith doesn't require the lights to be on to move. It walks confidently in the dark because it trusts the one who holds the light. That's why people of faith often seem strange to the world. While others panic, they praise. While others fear, they move forward. While others wait to see, they act. Because they are not walking by natural sight. They are walking by spiritual vision. They are being led by something higher than logic, more powerful than proof, the voice of divine instruction. Let me tell you something. Your eyes can deceive you. Your senses can be tricked. Your logic can be manipulated. But faith comes from a realm that cannot lie. It is rooted in the character of God who cannot fail. So when faith sees something, even if your natural eyes don't agree, it's your responsibility to trust the vision over the visual. Think about this. When Elijah's servant looked out and saw enemy armies surrounding them, fear gripped him. But Elijah, full of faith, prayed not for deliverance, but for vision. He said, Lord, open his eyes that he may see. And when the servant's spiritual eyes were opened, he saw that they were actually surrounded by chariots of fire. The situation hadn't changed, only the vision. That's the power of faith. It opens your eyes to a reality that was already there but previously hidden. It gives you the courage to act, not because everything makes sense, but because something deeper in your spirit knows the truth. Faith doesn't wait for confirmation to move. It moves, and then the confirmation comes. Let me break this down for you. Faith sees the business before the bank account. It sees the healing before the report. It sees the restoration before the apology. It sees the calling before the credentials, because faith is not reactive, it's proactive. It goes before you and prepares the way. It speaks the end from the beginning and then walks like it's already done. You've got to train your spirit to see through the eyes of faith. Stop being guided by surface level evidence and start listening to what your spirit is sensing. When God gives you a word, it is not your job to make it logical. It's your job to make it manifest through obedience. Logic will tell you to wait. Faith will tell you to walk. Logic will tell you to be cautious. Faith will tell you to be courageous. Remember, God never required you to understand. He required you to trust. And trust isn't about blind belief. It's about enlightened obedience. It's saying, I see what you're showing me, even if the world can't see it yet. That's why you've got to be careful who you share your faith vision with. Not everyone has the eyes to see what you see. Some people are so bound by fear and limitation that they will try to talk you out of what heaven has spoken into you. Guard your faith, protect your vision, nurture your divine insight, because what you see in your spirit is more real than what you see in the mirror. The vision in your heart is more accurate than the reality in your hands. The promise you carry is more valuable than the pain you're facing. Faith sees the end before the beginning ever makes sense. And let's talk about Abraham. God told him he would be the father of nations when he didn't even have one child. The man was old, his wife was barren, his logic should have said, it's over. But his faith said it's just beginning. Why? Because faith isn't blind. It sees differently. It sees based on the promise, not the problem. Abraham believed in hope against hope because he saw something in the spirit that contradicted what he saw in the flesh. This is why you can't let your current situation define your future revelation. What you're living in now is not the full picture. It's just the scene before the breakthrough. Don't let a temporary season make you doubt an eternal word. When God speaks something, it's not an opinion, it's law. It will come to pass. The question is not whether He will do it. The question is whether you will walk in alignment long enough to see it. Faith that sees is not passive, it's active. It doesn't just sit around waiting for a miracle. It builds, it prepares, it speaks life, it declares victory, it sows in famine. It rejoices in trials. Because faith understands that action is the seed of manifestation. What you do today in obedience will determine what you see tomorrow in fruit. Some of you have been looking with your natural eyes for too long. You've allowed what you see to talk you out of what God said. But I'm here to tell you that the lens of faith must replace the lens of fear. Fear magnifies the problem. Faith magnifies the promise. Fear shows you giants. Faith shows you grapes. Fear says you're too small. Faith says you're already approved. And faith doesn't mean you won't feel afraid. It means you won't bow to fear. It means you'll move forward anyway. You'll step out of the boat and walk on what others sink in. You'll obey the instruction that makes no sense. You'll release what feels safe to receive what's divine, because faith is not dependent on clarity. It's dependent on conviction. You see, your destiny is not built on convenience, it's built on obedience. And obedience often requires you to see beyond what's obvious. If you're waiting for everything to make sense before you move, you'll miss the miracle. The Red Sea didn't part before Moses raised his staff, it parted after. The walls of Jericho didn't fall before the shout, they fell after. The provision didn't show up before the step of faith, it came after. You've got to stop looking at your life through the wrong lens. Faith gives you supernatural sight. It reveals purpose in places that look like pain. It shows you beauty where others only see brokenness. It leads you into divine appointments that logic can't explain. And it positions you for outcomes that you could never produce on your own. What if everything you're waiting for is on the other side of a faith move? What if the thing that looks like a barrier is really a bridge? What if the very thing you're afraid to walk toward is the exact place your breakthrough lives? You'll never know if you keep walking by sight, but when you choose to walk by faith, you begin to see like heaven sees. So lift your eyes. Not just your physical eyes, lift the eyes of your heart. Ask God to open your spiritual sight. Pray the prayer of Elisha, Lord, open my eyes that I may see. See the help that's around you. See the future that's calling you. See the glory that's ahead of you. Because faith is not blind. It just refuses to be limited by what's visible. And when you begin to see like that, you'll walk differently, you'll talk differently, you'll dream bigger, you'll believe deeper, you'll move with clarity, not because you have all the answers, but because you know who gave you the assignment. That's real faith. And it will carry you through storms, elevate you above enemies, and place you in rooms your resume couldn't reach. Because you didn't walk by sight, you walked by vision. Let this be the season you stop doubting what you saw in the Spirit. Just because it hasn't shown up in the natural, stand firm, speak life, keep walking, because what you see in your spirit is more real than what the world says is possible. That's faith, and faith is not blind, it's seed. The true gift of faith is not just in receiving what you desire, but in becoming who you were created to be while you wait. This truth pierces the surface of shallow belief and pulls us into the deeper waters of spiritual maturity. Faith, at its highest expression, is not a transactional tool where we place our hopes in exchange for outcomes. It is a transformational process. It is not the evidence of things hoped for because they arrive, but because you become aligned with them long before they do. Faith is the development of divine character while walking through earthly delays. It is the chiseling of your spirit while nothing seems to change externally, yet everything shifts internally. Most people think faith is about arrival, but faith is about identity. The real work of faith begins not when you receive the thing you're believing for, but in who you become in the process of believing. The waiting period is never wasted. It is designed. The silence, the stillness, the seeming delays, all of it is sacred curriculum. While your eyes are fixed on the promise, God's eyes are fixed on your posture. He's not just interested in blessing you with outcomes. He is interested in building you into a vessel that can steward the outcome when it arrives. You can be gifted something that your character is not ready to sustain, and it will destroy you. But when faith is allowed to do its work in your waiting, you will be shaped into someone who not only receives the promise, but multiplies it. There is something sacred about waiting in faith. In the silence between your prayer and the manifestation, a transformation is taking place that is more important than the thing you're asking for. Faith will teach you how to carry peace in the middle of uncertainty. It will train you how to walk with dignity even when you feel denied. It will anchor you when the winds of disappointment blow and others walk away. It will purify your motives. It will cleanse your desires. It will strip away ego and clothe you in humility. It will sharpen your discernment and increase your wisdom. It will expose idols you didn't know you were worshiping and dismantle dependencies you thought you needed. Faith in the waiting doesn't just grow your patience, it restores your identity. What if the waiting was the blessing? What if the unanswered prayers were actually unspoken protection? What if the delay wasn't denial, but divine development? That's the perspective faith births in you. It gives you the eyes to see that every no is pregnant with a better yes. Every door that closed was preserving you. Every person who left was pruning you. Every job you didn't get was guiding you. You see, faith doesn't just wait, it worships while it waits. It doesn't just trust, it transforms while it trusts. Faith doesn't cry because it's empty. Faith rejoices because it knows what's coming is worth the becoming. If you only had the thing you prayed for but never became who God designed you to be, the thing would have no meaning. You were never meant to just receive. You were meant to evolve. You were never meant to just obtain. You were meant to overflow. Faith is the cocoon where the caterpillar dies and the butterfly emerges. It is the furnace where the gold is refined. It is the dark soil where the seed is buried, seemingly forgotten but destined to break through as a tree that bears fruit in due season. You must understand that the enemy of your destiny is not just distraction or destruction. It is discouragement during the delay. If the enemy can convince you that the waiting means God has abandoned you, he can rob you of the transformation that was meant to happen inside of you. But when you have true faith, you are no longer tied to the clock. You are no longer tormented by timelines. You no longer compare your journey to others because you know your faith is doing a deeper work. You are being formed. You are being fortified. You are being stretched and refined for something greater than what you asked for. Faith will teach you how to breathe even when you're suffocating with doubt. It'll help you walk even when your legs are trembling. It'll make you praise when nothing looks praiseworthy. It will silence the voices of fear and strengthen the whisper of truth within you. Faith isn't just belief in something unseen, it's belief in who you're becoming while you can't see what's ahead. And while others may see waiting as weakness, you know it is worship. While others complain, you stay committed. While others settle, you stay surrendered. You know that the longer the process, the greater the preparation, the deeper the faith, the higher the elevation. God is not just preparing the blessing for you, He is preparing you for the blessing. And the version of you that prayed for it is not the version of you that will possess it. That's why the waiting feels hard. It's not about punishment, it's about pruning. It's not rejection, it's redirection. You're being upgraded in private so you can be promoted in public. Faith does its best work in silence, in obscurity, in the quiet midnight moments when no one sees your tears, when no one hears your prayers, when no one understands your pain. But heaven is watching, heaven is working, and heaven is shaping you into a vessel of honor. That's why the enemy is so persistent in attacking you during the wait. He wants to make you curse the ground that's trying to grow you. He wants to blind you from the fruit that's being formed. But don't give in. Don't abandon the process. Let the faith in you be louder than the fear around you. Let it push you beyond your comfort and into your calling. Let it carry you when you feel broken and lift you when your spirit is weary. Don't just believe for what you want. Believe in who God is making you to be. You're not just waiting for a breakthrough, you are the breakthrough. You're not just praying for a miracle, you're becoming the miracle. And when the appointed time comes and the promise shows up, you'll realize it wasn't about the promise, it was about the person you became while walking by faith. Faith is the evidence not only of what's coming, but of who you are becoming, and what's being developed in you is eternal. It's untouchable by circumstances. It's not shaped by outcomes, but by obedience. That's why you must protect your faith like treasure, guard it against bitterness, cover it from comparison, nurture it with prayer, water it with the word, and surround it with people who speak life, not doubt. Because faith is fragile in its infancy, but becomes unshakable in maturity. In the end, the true reward of faith is not in what you gain, but in what you grow. And the growth is what glorifies God, because when others see your strength in the storm, your peace in the pressure, your joy in the wilderness, they will ask you how, and you will say, it was faith. Not feelings, not formulas, but raw, real, relentless faith, the kind that clings to the promises of God, even when everything looks like a contradiction. So hold fast. Keep building, keep believing, keep becoming. Because the greatest testimony of faith is not what shows up in your hands, but what has been transformed in your heart. That's the true gift of faith. And it's the one thing no one can ever take from you.